You know what's crazy is that before I recorded this video, I was wearing the same shirt as the last video, so I changed. I spoke about in the last video about wishing I could wear my writer's hat like all the time, or being able to write as a full-time job, or just being able to make art on your own time and um not have to work for something else in order to service this. And I had a really great comment from somebody who told me, or made the observation that no one can wear the writer's hat all the time. No one can be the artist 100% of the time. You have a life to live. And the more I thought about that, the more I thought about where exactly inspiration has come from for me. Whether or not I have been sitting at my desk with like my fingers on the keys waiting for inspiration to strike, or has inspiration been things that have happened in my life and have found a place on the page. And it's 100% the latter. I have been working on that short story that I mentioned to you guys. I reached about 5,000 words, so I'm probably more than halfway through this thing. Um, the going is slow. The going is slow, y'all, but it's gonna get there. It's gonna get there. I definitely fell off a little bit, but I'll talk about that in a second. Basically, what I wanted to say was this piece, I actually got inspired by a interaction between two acquaintances from across the room at a house party I was at. It was a housewarming party for my friend, and two people who I had met before but didn't know very well did something from across the room, and I watched it, and it stuck with me. I didn't see it as a inspiration for writing at first. I journaled about it and I sort of put it away because it made me think. I had a separate idea, and somehow this interaction at the housewarming party found its way into this piece, and now it's like a foundational thing about it. And I'm just like so incredibly thankful I went to that party, because I could never have written this the way that it is right now without that specific experience. And it's so interesting that there are those moments that you have no idea where they will take you. Um, and a lot more can be done out of the writer's desk. So I try to remind myself that even when I am writing slow or I am not making the progress that I want, that there's opportunity everywhere to find something that will inspire you, that will make you want to keep going. As a writer, I feel like you, part of your job is to be a really great observer, and try to understand people and try to understand things, and watch places change and evolve or stay the same, and do a lot of thinking. And that definitely means that you have to go out and play around with the world for a little bit, you know? The more I do things, the more I know that it's in service of myself, but it's also in service of my writing eventually too. Um, Now, regarding my writing pace, I need to make some changes for this new year. I am definitely not satisfied with the pace that I have made. For this story, I am satisfied with where it's going. I like what I write when I write it, but it takes time for me to sit down is the issue. And I found a lot of ways to um, procrastinate actually getting to the writer's chair. I will admit, probably making this video is a slight procrastination in itself, but I really love this dialogue instead of just me like ruminating on these thoughts. I can at least have a place for them and then put them aside. I think for this new year, I'm gonna try to do 100 words a day, and that seems like a small number compared to a lot of other people who write, from what I've heard. But for me, it makes sense, and that's all I'm gonna focus on for now. At first, I had a goal last month of writing for at least 10 minutes a day. My hope was that I was going to melt into writing, and it was going to last longer than 10 minutes. And then I kept making excuses. I kept saying, "Oh, well, instead of writing for 10 minutes, maybe I would read for 10 minutes, and then after that I would start writing." And then I ended up never writing, and I actually was reading more just to sort of avoid this this actual sitting down and starting and getting it done. The more I notice is like the sitting down is the hard part, not the actual groove of it. So I think if I actually force myself to sit down and write 100 words, I feel like it's going to be a lot easier to melt into the process. But like I said, this story is really good because I have an ending to it and I have all the scenes that precede it. They just have to be written, and there's only one way to do that. I don't know where I'm gonna share it. I don't know who I'm gonna show it to. I don't know if it's gonna be for me, but it will be done. Mark my words. It will be done. I guess since I'm here, I also might want to share some of the reading I've been doing over the past month. I'm also a slow reader in addition to being a slow writer. Um, and I try not to compare myself because I'm getting back into reading and writing after a long time of not. And also like my job and my life doesn't revolve around this, so I do spend a significant portion of my free time doing these things for myself. So I just remember that even if it's slow and it doesn't sound like everyone who can read a book a week, it's still good for me. So the thing that I read after The Bluest Eye was a book that I never would have picked up for myself. It was a recommendation from my friend. Um, and it is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Like I said, I do not read things like this. This is like very contemporary romantasy. It's the same author that did the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I really thought I was not going to like this book going into it. And I only did it because I wanted to hear out a friend. And you know what? That book actually gave me a lot of insight. Isn't that crazy that like you have to just be open to things and just see what happens? I actually really enjoyed the experience of reading that. It's definitely not my favorite book. I personally wasn't like in love with the actual writing itself or the prose, but man, it was so entertaining. Like the characters and how they interacted with each other. It was the words were breezy. It felt like really easy to turn the page, I could get through it really fast, and there was a lot happening all at the same time. There was a lot of different facets of it. There was a magical element, there was this competition element, there was a love element. There was a lot of things happening, and I felt that it was all sort of easily digestible. Um, I would call it like a really good palate cleanser. And you know what? I got some insight about my friend too, about why she wanted me to read this, about why this is one of her favorite series. So there was a lot of reasons to go into this with some good faith, even though I would never have expected to um, enjoy something like this. So I was really happy to have this given to me. The next thing I read, and I just finished this yesterday, is The Road by Cormac McCarthy. This is definitely a 180 from that. It is long. It is, well, it's not even that long. It's it feels long because like that's kind of what the characters are going through. Long droning run-on paragraphs about survival techniques in an apocalypse and gray, ashen, dead landscapes. And that is what it feels like. There was someone who made a comment somewhere that this book feels like reading The Color Gray, and they are 100% right. But it is the type of fiction that I really enjoy. It was a very meditative experience about love. I watched an interview with Cormac McCarthy, and he talked about how this book was very much talked about how far someone is willing to go for love. In this case, it's a father and son. I also found there to be a really interesting meditation about what it means to be good. It's definitely something I've read about before, but it just through a child's perspective too is really interesting about like how a child views like violence. And there's discussion about what it means to be good and then what it means to be human and whether or not it's possible for those two things to overlap and whether or not the effort is worth it to have those two things overlap. As much as the story was beautiful, I wasn't as emotionally moved as I uh, could have been, but I still really enjoyed it and it was definitely really thought provoking. And it is the type of meditation that I like to write about too. So I thought it was really good, and I'm excited to read more because that's my first book I read from him. Um, I know I really want to read Blood Meridian. So that's definitely gonna happen at some point. Okay, this one is next. This one's next, y'all. This I am very, very, very excited about. This is My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Tessa Moshfegh, and I love her. I have not read a single word from her, but I have watched so many interviews. And I realized, y'all, I watch a lot of author interviews. Clearly, I care a lot about what these people have to say. But she is hilarious. I find her dry wit like so infectious in the way that she handles interviewers sometimes. Um, I find her hilarious, and listening to her excerpts are really interesting to me. And I don't know if y'all do this. Like when I read, I almost find it helpful to like watch a couple interviews from the author, see how they talk, and then like read the book in their voice. So I feel like I've done a lot of preparation for Otesha Mosfeg, and I'm really hoping that her voice like comes through. I mean that in like the literal sense. Like I feel like I can um like in my brain like narrate through something else like that isn't my voice. I don't know if y'all can do that. It's kind of interesting. See, but I can't see things. I can't visualize things. Like I feel like I can't do the whole like, oh, if there's an apple in front of you, like I can't, there's nothing there. I don't know if y'all can do that with your eyes open or your eyes closed. That's crazy to me. Um yeah, let me know if you can do that. I cannot. And I did not forget about Miss Morrison. This is happening after. Yes, I am reading Jazz next after My Year of Rest. So this will be exciting. I've heard this one is a lot about this community aspect that I mentioned in a lot of her other works, just sort of turned up to 11. And I'm really excited to see how a community reacts to a specific event and how all of those perspectives could make it feel like the whole story is told. I think it's going to be a big reading year for me because it's already a couple days into the year and I already have one done. Um, I'm definitely feeling a lot more energy and momentum. I need to channel that into the writing. I need to focus on my 100 words a day, and hopefully that turns out to be more. Happy writing, happy reading, happy art making, and whatever you're doing. I hope you guys have a great year. And I will see y'all in the next one.